Getting the story is a lot easier if you understand the company's business. I'd rather invest in pantyhose than in fiber optics. The simpler it is, the better I like it. You never find the perfect risk-free company, the kind of stock I dream about. But you can recognize favorable attributes which will greatly increase your likelihood of success. The following discussion covers 13 of the most favorable attributes you should look for. The first attribute is that the company name is dull, or even better, ridiculous. Automatic data processing is boring, but not quite as boring as Bob Evans Farms. But even Bob Evans Farms won't win the prize for the best name you could give a stock. Pep Boys Manny Mo and Jack is the most promising name I've ever heard. It's better than dull. It's ridiculous. Who wants to put money in a company that sounds like the Three Stooges? No Wall Street analyst in his right mind would recommend a stock called Pep Boys Manny Mo and Jack. Unless, of course, Wall Street already realizes how profitable it is. By the time Wall Street knows about it, the price is already up tenfold. The second attribute is the company does something dull. I love to find a company with a boring name that also does something boring. Crown Cork and Seal makes cans and bottle caps. What's duller than that? A company that does boring things is almost as good as a company with a boring name. Both together is terrific. Both together will keep the oxymorons away. Ultimately, the good news will compel them to buy in, and that always pushes the stock price higher and higher. The third attribute is that the company does something disagreeable. What's better than boring? The answer is boring and disgusting. A company that does something that makes people shrug, retch, or turn away in disgust is ideal. Take Safety-Kleen, for example. Safety-Kleen provides gas stations with a machine that washes greasy auto parts. Gas stations gladly pay for the service. What analyst would want to write about this? What portfolio manager want to have Safety-Kleen on his buy list? Not many, which is precisely what's endearing about Safety-Kleen. The fourth attribute is that the company is a spin-off. Spin-offs of companies into separate freestanding entities often result in lucrative investments. Large parent companies do not want to spin off divisions just to watch them fail. A spin-off failure brings embarrassing publicity which reflects badly on the parent. Therefore, the spin-offs normally have strong balance sheets and are well prepared to succeed as independent entities. The greatest spin-offs of all were the Baby Bell companies created from the AT&T breakup. While the parent has been an uninspiring performer until recently, the average stock gain in the newly created companies was 114% from November 1983 to October 1988. When the dividends are added in, the return is more like 170%. This beats the total return of the market by more than twice. The fifth attribute is that institutions don't own it and the analysts don't follow it. If you find a stock with little or no institutional ownership, you've found a potential winner. Find a company no analyst has visited and you found a double winner. You can find these stocks in banks, savings and loans, and insurance companies. There are thousands of these opportunities, but Wall Street keeps up with less than 100. The sixth attribute is that there are negative rumors about the company, like it's involved with toxic waste and or the mafia. It's hard to think of a more perfect industry than waste management. Sewage and toxic waste dumps disturb people. Waste Management, Inc., the largest company in the waste management industry, is a better prospect than Safety-Kleen because it has two unthinkable things going for it: the toxic waste industry itself and the mafia. Anybody who fantasizes that the mafia runs all the Italian restaurants, the newsstands, the dry cleaners, and the construction sites also thinks the mafia controls the garbage industry. This fantastic assertion was a great advantage to the earliest buyers of waste management stock. The shares were grossly underpriced relative to the actual opportunity. The seventh attribute is that there's something depressing about it. My all-time favorite in this category is Service Corp International, or SRV. Now, if there's anything Wall Street would rather ignore besides toxic waste, it's mortality. SRV does burials. SRV also pioneered the pre-need funeral policy. This is a popular layaway plan. It enables you to pay off your casket and funeral service now while you can afford it. SRV gets the money for its pre-need sales, and the cash continues to compound. This company was shunned by most professional investors. SRV executives had to beg the professionals to listen to their story. Here was the perfect opportunity. Everything was working. You could see it happening. The earnings kept increasing. There was rapid growth, almost no debt, and Wall Street turned the other way. The eighth attribute is that it's a company in a no-growth industry. Many people prefer to invest in a high-growth industry where there's a lot of sound and fury. Not me. I prefer to invest in no-growth industries like funerals. For every product in a hot industry, there are 1,000 recent graduates trying to figure out how to make it cheaper and better in Taiwan or Korea. This doesn't happen with bottle caps, oil drum retrieval, or funerals. In a no-growth industry, especially one that's boring and upsets people, there's no problem with competition. That gives you the leeway to continue to grow and gain market share. SRV already owns 5% of the nation's funeral homes, and there's nothing to stop it from owning 15%. The ninth attribute is that it's got a niche. I'd much rather own a local rock pit than 20th Century Fox. A movie company competes with other movie companies, while the rock pit has a niche. Owning a rock pit is very safe and very boring. But if you've got the only gravel pit in town, you've got a virtual monopoly. A rock pit is valuable because nobody can compete with it. The nearest rival owner may be 2 towns away. He's not going to haul his rocks into your territory because the trucking bills eat up his profit. I always look for niches. Drug and chemical companies have niches. Once a patent is approved, all the rival companies with their billions in research dollars can't invade the territory. They must invent a different drug, prove it is different, and then do 3 years of clinical trials before the government lets them sell it. The 10th attribute is that people have to keep buying the product. I'd rather invest in a company making drugs, soft drinks, razor blades, or cigarettes than a company that makes toys. Somebody can make a wonderful doll that every child must have, but every child only gets one. 8 months later, that doll is removed from the shelves to make room for the newest doll the children must have, manufactured by a different company. Why take chances on fickle purchases when there's so much steady business around? The 11th attribute is that a company is a user of technology. Why invest in a computer company that struggles to survive in an endless price war when you can invest in a company benefiting from the price war? Again, look at automatic data processing. As computers get cheaper, ADP can do its job cheaper. This results in an increase in profits. The 12th attribute is that the company insiders are buyers of the stock. There's no better tip-off to the probable success of a stock than that the people in the company are putting their own money into it. If you see someone with a $45,000 salary buying $10,000 worth of stock, you can be sure it's a meaningful vote of confidence. There's only one reason insiders buy. They think the stock price is undervalued and will eventually go up. The 13th attribute is the company is buying back shares. Buying back shares is the simplest and best way a company can reward its investors. If a company has faith in its own future, then why shouldn't it invest in it itself? Massive share buybacks occurred after the October 1987 market drop. This stabilized the market at the height of its panic. These buybacks reward investors over the long term. When a stock is bought by its company, it is taken out of circulation. The number of outstanding shares is reduced. This can have a magical effect on the earnings per share, which in turn has a magical effect on the stock price. If a company buys back half its shares and its overall earnings are constant, the earnings per share have doubled.